Ladies and gentlemen, I'd say in my history of Rotary Club of Camberwell, this has to be a first. We're truly honoured to have our guest speaker tonight. Harry, or better known by his nickname given in Australia, Barney, Schooley, came to Australia as a Rotary exchange student in 1963, supported by our club. Now, just within the last 3 to 6 months, Harry reached out to our club via, first of all, the website, Facebook, some emails, and we finally made contact because Harry wanted to share his experiences, and he had some photos of his experience. Well, this is an absolute treasure trove of images, as you will soon see. So I thought this was a unique experience, a unique chance for Harry to give some real live insight into his experience with Camberwell Rotary, Melbourne and other parts of Australia in the early 60s. Now, just by way of a bio, Harry now lives in Williamsville in New York State, which is a suburb of Buffalo, not far from Niagara Falls. Is that right, Harry?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll turn that off in a minute. He's retired from a career in education, having taught history at 2 independent college preparatory schools for girls, Buffalo Seminary College in Buffalo and Hathaway Brown in a place called Shaker Heights, Ohio. He's a high school graduate from Wyoming Seminary and Williams College. He's done graduate studies in education at Canisius College in Buffalo. He's married to his high school sweetheart, and they have one son, 50. I won't take any more of your thunder, Harry. Over to you, and we'll tweak the system to make sure that we hear you and we don't have any of this feedback, but over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen now. I hope. And let's see where I am. Okay, we'll get rid of that. I hope, and here we go. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, well, good evening. I'm assuming that I'm being heard now and my pictures are being seen. Is that correct? Very good. First of all, I'd like to give thanks to Murray Anderson and Fabienne Nicola for the invitation and arrangements that enable me to be with you this evening. The last time I was with you was July 24th, 1963, almost 58 years ago. For me, it was such a memorable experience that it still seems like yesterday. My major obligation to Rotary was to be an ambassador for my country and speak at other Rotary clubs, schools, and organizations. I loved doing this. I had no difficulty. I brought slides from home and spoke about my family, school, and community. And I spoke at clubs in the Melbourne area and on my travels, club meetings in Western Australia, in Cairns, and in Canberra. And once back home, I would be an ambassador for Australia and do speaking and slide presentations on my year down under at schools and other organizations. Camberwell Rotary required me to change host families every 5 weeks. The reason for this was twofold. Should the relationship with a host family become uncomfortable for either student or family, the discomfort would be temporary, and it would enable the student to experience a greater range of families, as well as a greater range of families to experience the student. I came to feel a part of every family and did not want to leave one for another. They all wanted me back, and I was able to repeat stays with several of them later in my year. Here are my host fathers and others who were very instrumental in my program with you all. Bert Jennings, Jim Henry, Ted Yateman, Jack Stacy, Andy Adair, Alan Stacy. Wonderful men. Okay, I actually got there. Progress Press reported it on August 15th, 1962. I arrived in 62 and departed in 63. This is the only official high school photograph of me. I'm with a group of boys. I don't know what group that is because it's not identified. But it could be the MacArthur House sixth form boys or the whole slew of MacArthur House boys at Camberwell High School. I was very young and handsome back then. My flag, I hope you find my flag. I felt that the 48-star flag that the club had needed to be replaced, and managed to get my congressman in Pennsylvania to fly one over the Capitol for us. And we presented it to the club. This wonderful man is Perk Tromp. Perk was chairman of the committee overseeing the club's student exchange program. An accomplished commercial artist, Perk was well known for his posters promoting tourism in the 1930s. He was a true gentleman and a good friend, and I was very saddened to learn in 1964 that he had died. If you haven't seen his posters, Google Percy Tromp and look at them. They are spectacular. My Aussie families. My first Aussie parents were Andy and Marge Adair of Camberwell. Andy owned Adair Brothers at the Junction. They had 2 sons and a daughter, all younger than I. I traveled with them to Inverloch for a week and to Perth by train, or trains back then, for 2 weeks at Christmas in 1962. And I'm in Facebook contact with all of my Adair siblings. Jack and Dulcie Stacy of North Baldwin. Jack and his brother Alan owned a news agency. Jack and Dulcie had 3 boys, all younger than I. There they are. It was mandatory that I be part of the family in all of the families that I had, and so therefore washing the dishes was a significant chore, and I would do this in all houses. But I do not have pictures of my doing this in all houses. Pat and Ted Yateman. They lived in Berwick, and I honestly cannot remember Ted's occupation, although I think it was an accountant. They had 2 daughters and a son, all close to my age, but they went to different schools, and so I really did not get to know them very well. I played tennis a lot with Julian, their son, but Carol and Marion had lives outside of home, and as far as I could tell, I didn't get to know them at all. Jim and Mrs. Henry, I don't remember Mrs. Henry's name, and I apologize terribly for that. It's not written down in any of my day books. But I traveled with Jim and their son, Jeff, in January of 1963. We went up to the Australian Alps and the Snowy Mountain Scheme, and I'll have a couple pictures from that later on. Stan, Catherine, and Margaret Mellor. They were the nicest people and very supportive of me in the exchange program. Stan and Kath were certainly my oldest of host parents. Stan's health suffered that year. He was hospitalized twice with heart-related illnesses and died a few years after my return. Amy and Don McCrae. Don, they lived in Berwick. I did not live, I'm sorry. Don was in management of an automobile dealership. They had 2 sons close to my age. There they are, Russell and Rodney. Rodney was actually much younger. Rodney played the accordion, and I did not. But it was fun to play with it, to fiddle around with it. They taught me to water ski. Okay, we went up to Lake Learmonth in Ballarat, and I learned to water ski, and that was a great accomplishment for me. Alan and Mavis Stacy. The Stacys, Alan was a brother to Jack and shared ownership of that news agency in Baldwin. They had 2 daughters and a son. All right. They introduced me to the Magpies, the Collingwood Magpies, and I've been hooked to the Magpies ever since. I do follow their progress or lack of progress, depending upon the year. I still have that tea towel. It hangs proudly in my man cave at home in Buffalo. Their children, Kate was roughly my age. There's Alan, there's Lynn, there's John, and Mavis. Lynn and John were a little older. Kate came to visit us in 2001 in Buffalo, stayed a week with us. That was wonderful. I'm in Facebook contact with Lynn and John. Both Alan and Mavis have since died. And the highlight of my year was spending 3 weeks on a cattle station in northern Queensland at Mount Surprise. And my family there were Doug Jennings, A.B. Jennings, Bert Jennings' son. There's their family. They had a very young family. The woman on the right is their tutor. She was from England, and she was the kids' tutor and nanny. Look at Camberwell Rotary. All right, just a few quick pictures. I'm not sure if this room looks familiar to you at all, but that's what it was back in the day. And you'll notice that there are no women in the membership at that time. There's Ted Yateman. I believe he was treasurer of the club at the time. Jack Giblett was club president. Jack came to the United States and visited us for a day. Everybody who goes to Niagara Falls has to come and visit us. That's an order, right? And there's Stan Meller giving a report. Sergeant at Arms Trevor Westcott. Trevor later became mayor of Camberwell. And there we are paying the fine. All right, me addressing the Camberwell Rotary in February. This got some publicity in the newspaper back near my hometown in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I attended with the club the District 280, that's what Rotary, Camberwell Rotary belonged to back then, in Lorne, down on the coast. Here you see the Camberwell Rotary ladies after church, okay, at the Lorne conference. The program, one of the programs featured all the exchange students in the district, and there were kids from Malaysia, the Philippines, I believe Korea, and the United States. And the Rotary International General Secretary at that time, George Means, is center at rear. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but he's back there. I'm not there because I'm taking the picture. There I am, preparing for the student exchange program. Kindle the Spark Within was the theme of Rotary International that year. And there we are up on that stage. I am speaking at this point. It was a wonderful experience. There's George Means with 4 of the other exchange students. The young lady to his left, on our right, with the gray jacket, she was from my same high school in Pennsylvania and was sponsored by the Myrtleford Rotary Club. And it was very nice to see her. We had a great time at this at the conference. On March 31st, 63, the Camberwell Rotary Woodshop at Yarra Glen. Okay, so this is one of the many club activities. I went along on this one because it was a special event for me. March 31st is my birthday, and so I turned 18 years old on that day, and we had a bush celebration, if you will. the Burke Trump presiding. Okay. Boy, I wish I looked like that now. Leadership change at Camberwell Rotary. On June 26th, reported in the Progress Press on July 3rd. I managed to sneak into the photo there on the right. On July 21st, my host families had a farewell party for me. And, everybody came, all the kids came, parents came, club officials came. This was my family. You were all my family back then. And it broke my heart to have to leave you and return to my real family. On July 24th, my last meeting with Camberwell Rotary, Burke Trump presenting me with a Mogulwood pen and ink stand. I still have that. And I still know where my flag is. They presented me with an Australian flag that had flown over Parliament in Canberra, right? So that is a very, very special memento of my year down under. And at that farewell, we all sang Auld Lang Syne, and then the club sang, Will Ye No Come Back Again? Oh my God, I was in tears. What a thrilling and, shall we say, heartbreaking moment that was. On July 30th, I began my flight home. I flew from Melbourne to Sydney, from Sydney to London, by way of a lot of airports in between. And then I took a ship to New York City, where my parents and my girlfriend met me. So there we are, all at the Essendon Airport. The new airport was not completed at that time, and so there they are. And that many of my family came that morning to see me off. Once again, I was heartbroken. However, waiting me on the other end was this young woman, my wife, Lon. That photo I took with me on the left, I took with me to Australia, and the one on the right is like 4 years later when we were married. Camberwell, 1963, a couple of quick shots. There's the town hall, and there's Trevor Westcott, who was mayor of Camberwell. There are Adair brothers at the junction. Of course, all of this now looks very different, as I'm sure you're aware. Looking east on Riverdale, okay, from the junction going east, I think that's the Presbyterian Church there on the left with the steeple. Love the automobiles. Camberwell High School. If you're familiar with Camberwell High School today, there's a whole huge educational complex of buildings at that site. This was the only building at that site in 1963. Except for some temporary classrooms, which you see there on the right of the picture. Here are a few of my mates, from Camberwell High School in their uniforms. It was a wonderful experience, really. And I don't know if you can see me at all, but I have my uniform cap here, and I'll quick put it on. My head has swelled greatly since then. Melbourne, 1962-63, Yarra view. Okay, you recognize that view? Probably not. All right, Princess Bridge. See that nice building back there? There's a marker on it, on the one on the right, because that was the day of the Queen's visit. So that's E2, I believe. Although you see only one of only the one there. Looking from the bridge into town, or center city, St. Paul's and Flinders Street Station there. St. Paul's on the right, Flinders Street Station on the left, looking up Swanston Street. The view from atop the ICI building. I understand the ICI building is still there. The CRA building that you see there in the center is no longer there. That view is probably no longer there either. The CRA building was the tallest in Melbourne, 325 feet, soaring above the city. A wonderful picture because of the tram and the building itself, the old and the new of Melbourne. Looking up Burke Street or down Burke Street from Queen Street, this picture has great significance to me because there's a scene in the movie On the Beach, which was filmed back in 1959, I believe, in Melbourne. There's a view from the same intersection, and the building on the right is under construction in that view. Parliament House with the spotless cleaner's truck driving by. The Shrine of Remembrance. View of Center City from the shrine. We'll just look at that a little more closely. Keep that image in mind as we take a quick look at what's there now, right? So it's a bit different today than it was back in 1963. The Meyer Music Bowl. The Government House, pictures taken from the shrine. I was there when the Queen visited Melbourne. My photo is on the left there. The photos on the right are screen snips from a Pathé News feature. That is about as good a photo of the Queen as I got while we were there, but it was a privilege and an honor to have been there. And this is what really matters, of course, isn't it? Footy at the MCG. Went there a lot. Also went to Victoria Park for Collingwood. Down on Port Phillip Bay at Mount Eliza, okay, friends of the Stacys, we went sailing. That's the same beach that was in the movie On the Beach, where Fred Astaire and Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner all trod the same sands that I did. Point Lonsdale, okay, looking across at the Nepean, I believe it is Peninsula, at the end of the bay. Places I visited, this will take about 3 minutes, okay? Farthest north I got was Cairns. The farthest west I got was Perth, with places in between. I did not get to the center, although I flew over the center on my flight from Sydney to London. My trip to Western Australia was by train. I went with the Adair family by train. We had to change trains near the boundaries because of the difference in track gauges. Across the Nullarbor Plain. That picture could have been taken any time of the day, and it would look as if the train had not moved at all, but we moved over 300 miles, okay, over the course of the day. We stopped at Cook. I don't think the trains stop at Cook anymore, but we stopped at Cook and got out and were able to walk around and tour all there was to Cook, which was then not very much. I guess it's even less now. Perth, as viewed from Kings Park, I was with the Adairs and their relatives at a lovely home in Bicton, down near Fremantle. This was the view from their front yard. Okay, we see the Swan River there and the baths, as that swimming area was called, and the ferry boat that came down between Perth and Fremantle stopped there. I went with the Henrys to Mudgegonga, which is near Myrtleford in the mountains. Stayed at this farm, which had only received electricity the week before. Plumbing was relatively primitive there. You had to walk the garden path to Parliament House. Okay. That was an adventure at night, but a necessity nonetheless. Legend has it that Ned Kelly was once in that house, but I imagine that's probably true of any old farmhouse anywhere in that part of Australia. A view I took from the Mount Buffalo, the chalet there at Mount Buffalo. We went to the summit, the horn of Mount Buffalo. That handsome young man is me. We also toured, had several days up in the Snowy Mountain area, the skiing. You can be Dam there. That's Mount Kosciuszko, and that's the Threadbow ski area that you see there. This is in January of 1963. I spent a week at Torquay with the Alan Stacys. That was a wonderful place. Beautiful Norfolk pines there. Loved being there. And then I took my trip north in May of '63, spending a day at Sydney. And you can see here this view, the construction crane over here. That is the beginning of the construction for the Sydney Opera House. Since Sydney had a bridge, I had to take a picture of the Story Bridge in Brisbane, okay, which the Sydney people say is just our bridge upside down. And now we're at Mount Surprise in northern Queensland. My host was Doug Jennings. I spent 3 weeks there. I learned how to fly that airplane, although never solo. At one point, we were coming in for a landing, and Doug said, "Barney," he said, "just take her down." And I said, "Oh no." I said, he said, it'll land itself. I said, "I know, but I want somebody in control when it does." Here you see the location of the Mount Surprise Station, about 150 miles southwest of Cairns and 200 miles northwest of Townsville. And there again is the Jennings family, my hosts. This is a view from over the property. You're looking in the distance. Doug says from this particular point of view, everything is there as part of that property. There's the homestead and the outbuildings. There's the township of Mount Surprise. Okay? No paved road, Mount Surprise. On approach for landing, the landing field was about 7 miles from the homestead. There's the homestead. It's viewed across Elizabeth Creek. There's the home building. Here I am with my horse, Bud. I had my own horse. I still have that hat, incidentally. Bud was a pregnant mare, okay? And so they figured she was safe for me to ride. But I went out on a ride every morning on the property. I went out with the men on a cattle muster, and she was a wonderful friend. Here we are, Center City, Mount Surprise. The pub, I understand, is now for sale if you're looking for an investment property. Also, because of the discovery of the lava tubes up in that area, which were totally unknown when we were there, this place has developed into somewhat of a tourist center. There's some emus. We could get out and see some of the wildlife. We had dingoes every night. You could hear them. This is on a cattle drive. You'll notice there's smoke and haze in the background. They set fires as we went in order to create fire breaks. That was a concept very new to me and somewhat exciting. And we brought the herd that we rounded up back to the paddock, and then did the branding and of the calves and the youngsters. Doug had 2 Aboriginal stockmen, and both men were very, very personable and enjoyed teasing the Yank. That was me. I was the Yank. And this photo taken of me on June 20th, 1963, was taken by the woman from England, and she sent it to me by post in 2010. Right? Wow. Here the Jennings family at Barron Falls near Cairns. We went out on to Green Island on the Barrier Reef. It was just beautiful. Went to Townsville. Pat needed her hair done, so we flew to Townsville to have her hair done. That's the view from Castle Hill, overlooking Townsville. And then on my return trip, Canberra, I stopped there for several days, hosted by the Rotary Club there. First thing they took me to was the shrine, which of course is indeed important in the legacy and memory of all Australians. And I finished my presentation of slides with this picture of the National Parliament House, which I guess today is a museum replaced by the new Parliament House. Ladies and gentlemen of the club, thank you so much for this opportunity for me to share some of my experience with you. I really appreciate it. Now, if there's any follow-up to this, everybody seems to be muted, so I assume everything's okay. Okay, Kenya.
Now you can hear.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Another round of applause. Barney, just to show, and I don't know whether you'll see this, but Jack Giblett is on my presidential chain. If I just hold it up to the camera, I don't know whether you can make that out.
I can see that. That's very nice.
Proud to be wearing this, and you were with Camberwell about here. Fantastic. Jack, thank you so much. You have made a whole lot of friends, new friends at Camberwell Rotary. That was a fascinating talk. You probably couldn't hear all the oohs and ahs from the audience as we saw the views of old Camberwell and old Melbourne and the things you've seen around Australia. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. I'm so pleased you did, and I'm so pleased that even though I had a couple of nervous breakdowns, we made this technology work tonight. So thank you very much.
And thank you all very much.
I'd also like to thank the members that are on Zoom tonight. G-Van, Jim, and Sparky Clarkey are there, as well as Ian Fader from Sydney. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation as well. I want to thank Michelle Bukoy. Thanks for coming this time. I hope you found it interesting. Next week, we've got Dr. Vivian Nicholson speaking on her topic, Telling Tales, and in the chair is our very own John Stephen. So that'll be a great one. The quote for the week, I looked for something about history, and it's a good quote, but not quite the history that I was thinking of. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "A small body of determined spirits, fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission, can alter the course of history." Very good words. So let's all collectively open new opportunities for action, service and change. Be kind to one another and have a good week in Rotary, and I have to draw the raffle. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'm gonna
Barney, if you just bear in mind, because of the 38 mate promotion, we're just going to get a photo opportunity. We've got you up on the screen so you can be a very good looking backdrop. I've got a bag of... Okay.
Don't go away, we're still here.
Barney, thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Except Mike's still.
No,
You're very welcome.
I just want to say something.
to him or to the crowd? Okay.
Is that on?
Before you go, please, can I just have your attention for a moment? Hello? Just for 1 sec, while the ladies are getting organised over there, I will be coming. I just wanted to say that tonight was a real milestone that we managed to get, not we, credit to our president to have an overseas visitor speak to us by Zoom. That was quite a feat. One question, please go up.
That worked surprisingly well.
Barney and everyone. Can you hear me, Barney? No, that's, hang on.
Try this one. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Barney, thank you so much. We will be in touch by email, and you will have made a whole lot of new friends at Camberwell Rotary because of this, and we'll keep the communication channels open. This has been a fantastic experience, and needless to say, all your photos will become part of the club's history, and we thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Wonderful to be with you.
Okay, well done. And thank
Very
you for
good.
getting up so early too.
Okay, I'm gonna leave now. So thanks so
Okay.
much. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you very much, Barney. Bye-bye.
Bye.